Now, if you were a rational human being and you were the President of the United States and you see what just happened to Israel, would you not change your border policy with respect to the United States? Again, I was the first to mention that on Fox. How can you have a completely open border? That's not an intelligence failure. That's a lack of intelligence up here. Iran has been rearmed, has enormous amount of funds now, thanks to Joe Biden, basically $70 billion. They had $4 billion in reserve when Trump left office. They have the capacity to continue making money as they sell their oil to China, to Venezuela, to Syria, to Russia, and to other enemies. And that money's flowing in not because there aren't rules in place to prevent it, sanctions, but because the Biden administration allowed it. Just as they are allowing and even unbelievably helping through their propaganda and their appeasement the Iranian regime to complete its nuclear weapons program. I want you to imagine Iran with a nuclear weapon right now. I want you to imagine the Middle East with Iran with a nuclear weapon, the blackmail, the threats, the intimidation, even of the United States. Because you'd never know what they're going to do with it. I know what they'll do with it. And so does Netanyahu. So why is it, when this war started out and the atrocities started to show up on video, mostly Hamas video, MSNBC and others were calling these, and CNN, were calling these people Gaza militia, trying to avoid the word Palestinian and the word terrorist, or Gaza terrorists. Or they were calling them Hamas fighters. Hamas fighters. Fighters? They're murderers. I guess the worst scene, and they're also horrific, was when these pieces of you-know-what, when they attacked that music festival. These are young people, ladies and gentlemen. These are people, teenagers or young adults in their early 20s, many of them girls. They were there like our kids, our grandkids. They're at an open-air music festival. Can you imagine? They didn't even know what hit them. Hundreds of terrorist Nazis dressed in black with automatic, high-power weapons coming in from air, coming in from land, just lined up. Did you see this? You saw it, Mr. Producer? And rushing towards them. And they start executing them. And they're running as fast as they can for their lives. Trying to get to the cars are shot up. Shot in the back, shot on the ground. Grabbing girls. Kidnapping them to take them across the border. To rape them and then dismember them, slaughter them, drag them through the streets. Trust me when I tell you this is already happening. They're not waiting for Israel to do anything before they start executing kidnapped individuals. In fact, the Washington Post did a story last week in which it said there was video of 4 Jews out of this kibbutz that they were taking, the Nazis, over the border. And just on the other side of the border, they were dead. They'd been executed. And in that little town right on the border there were 700 people that lived in this little kibbutz. They murdered 100 of them, including 40 babies who they decapitated. Apparently it's on video. They're so proud of themselves. So horrendous, nobody in the United States wants to show it. Is it too much to ask Joe Biden to tell the anti-Semite Hamas wing of his party that they're contemptible and that his party wants nothing to do with it? Nothing to do with them? It's amazing to me Joe Biden, how he has not stood up against Students for Palestine, the anti-Semitic individuals, many of them immigrants on a temporary student visa into our country. It is amazing to me that he can't even speak out against these individuals, or he waits to speak out against these individuals. You got to wonder about this guy if he really has ice water in his veins, what he did in Afghanistan. Even when you look at Russia, many of you and I may disagree. I think the poor Ukrainians are being slaughtered. And yet, as the Russians were building up, as Putin all but said what he was going to do, what did Joe Biden do? He opened the oil pipeline to the Russians while he was shutting down our pipeline, of course. He opened it, he was appeasing them, he was bending over backwards, and Putin, watching and listening to this and watching Afghanistan, he said, all right, I'm going to go. And he did. That's what he did. Afghanistan, some of the weapons in Afghanistan, reportedly, I don't know, are winding up in the hands of terrorists. Why wouldn't they? Look what's happening all over the world. But in our own country, we have a problem. Now, if you were a rational human being and you were the President of the United States and you see what just happened to Israel, would you not change your border policy with respect to the United States? Again, I was the first to mention that on Fox. How can you have a completely open border? That's not an intelligence failure. That's a lack of intelligence up here. You've heard now, since I mentioned it some time ago, that over 150 terrorists have been caught on the border. Biden considers that an accomplishment. Really? Millions of illegal aliens have come into this country. Millions. Millions of them, we don't know who they are or where they are. Now, if you want to plot against the United States, wouldn't you say this is the perfect time to come into the United States? You won't be caught. Oh, we got 151. Okay, what about the others? They don't know a thing about them.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.